All right, and it looks like we should be good to go. I just want to make sure the audio sounds good. I got it in my headset, so I'm going to actually turn off the monitoring because that is annoying to listen to myself. Live stream here on the. Oh, cool shirt. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. What's going on, Mark? So, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream here. I apologize, I missed last week. We actually had some incident. Both of my cars that we have got broken into because they were left unlocked, unfortunately, for some odd reason. Mine's normally always locked, but my wife's usually isn't. She usually forgets. But so somebody rummaged through our cars, and so Wednesday I actually had scheduled a security guy to come out to give me a quote on installing cameras all the way around the property. So just for safety and all that, it's probably best to have, especially with being on the internet and all like we are. So it's probably just a good idea. So we're doing that. The guy actually came out and gave me a quote, and he's going to be installing this weekend. So works out. But what's going on, everybody? Oops, hit the camera. What's going on, Dita? So so we're gonna. I keep hitting. So we moved kind of. Normally we were facing like this way, and pointing at this wall on this side, but now we're twisted a little bit. Margaret kind of redid this room, so she likes to redecorate a lot, and this is the consequences of that decorating. So what's up, Deedon? Like the shirt, thank you. What's up, Lewis? I wanted to touch on this plant of the week thing before I move on to any Q&As. But basically what I was thinking is I want to start doing a plant of the week every week, and what that means is basically that plant will be discounted somewhere between an extra 10 to maybe 20% depending on the plant, and that's going to be when you order more than, I think probably more than one, but I have to play around with the numbers, but that'll probably start going on tomorrow. Once I play around with the numbers tonight, figure it out, I'll send out an email through our newsletter and also post on Facebook and Instagram that hey, this is the plant that we selected, and you can order it from now until next Thursday and save an extra percentage off. So that's what I'm going to do each week, and hopefully people enjoy it. They get maybe a particular plant that they've been waiting to buy a little bit extra of a discount. That's just I want to help push more plants out to people, as far as like stuff that we may have extra of stock in, or maybe we over ordered for a week and we have a lot of leftover, and that way I could just push them out quicker, and also give people a good deal on some plants. And it helps because if we make it so you buy 2 of this and then you get this extra percentage, it just helps. So we'll be starting that probably starting tomorrow. So if you're not signed up for the newsletter or following us on Instagram or Facebook, make sure you do so, because that will that'll increase your chances of seeing it, and it's gonna be a pretty good sale. So, and that every week it'll change. It'll be different plants, maybe multiple plants. I was thinking maybe I'll do like 2 plants at a time, and so let me see. Linked. What up, Noah? All right. So Q&A. Have you ever thought about selling some plants by the stem? It may help the cheaper hobbyists. So we used to do that actually. When we first started, I used to sell plants by the single stem, and that was fine when it was just myself. That was much easier to do when it was just literally me in my spare bedroom. But now it's a little bit different. Now I have 2 employees. I have to have the workers insurance, workers comp insurance, and other types of insurances, and all this extra overhead that kind of eats away at any bit of money that I would make doing stem plants as a single stem. So really, it's, the thing is, like, most stems are $7 per pot now, and I used to charge maybe like $3 per stem. It depended on the plant. Sometimes they're like $2, sometimes they're $3. But usually the pots, you're getting like 6 or 7 stems in it, so you're getting a better deal regardless, just by ordering one portion of that plant, or even if it comes bunched, usually it's like more than 4 stems. So for the average of the $7, it's it's still around the same price. The only difference is, like, if one person was to say, I just want one stem of this for $2, I have to charge them $10 for shipping, odds are, just to cover all of our shipping expenses, such as like adding heat packs and insulation, and also just the shipping cost itself. And so that, to pay $12 to get a single stem, it just doesn't make sense. And then you say, well, what if somebody ordered multiple? And then, well, yeah, you order the bunch and you get 8 stems of a particular plant. I mean, it could be sometimes 4 stems, but it ranges from plant to plant. So that's why we do what we do. But we do offer the bulk discounts, so you do get the bulk discounts if you order multiple plants, and that's to help out the people like setting up a particular plan. Like they want, I need a ton of Anubis, but I don't want to pay full retail. And it's like, well, you order a certain amount and you get I think it's up to 20 or 25% off, if I remember correctly. What is it? Up to 30% off, actually. Or no, that's something else. Hold on. Let's see what it is. I think it's up to 20%, I want to say. Maybe 15? I don't remember what I said it at. Any particular single plant, you get 15% off. On top of that, you could use coupon codes. So on the website specifically, there's a 10% off coupon code. So right there's 25% off if you did a bulk, purchase. And then also you get 10% back in rewards points that you can then redeem for additional money back. So all those things, and factor in you're getting free shipping if you order over $30. So it's we did the price changes. I think I did that in live stream last week, but the mic was a little screwed up. So yeah, so that's it on the pricing, really. Gary says, any tips on growing a dwarf sedge carpet? I bought some from you at AE last year. I had a few new sprouts, but nothing crazy. Help. So Gary, well, if you have new sprouts, that's good news. Usually, like for full carpet, if you really want to carpet out, like you have to buy a bunch of it and spread it out, and then it'll really like carpet out quickly. If you're seeing new growth, though, that's good. I mean, you could always introduce CO2. That'll help speed up the growth. You could also increase your light. That may be a thing that you could do. Then again, those are both expensive options if you don't already have them. But you could also make sure you have fertilizer and fertilizing the plants, and that would also really help out a lot as well. Because sometimes they may be lacking nutrients, and that's why maybe they're not necessarily doing what you want them to do. So can I get YouTube to load here? Why is that? Okay, there we go. Sorry, I'm trying to also like make sure the live stream looks good from the homepage, your channel. There we go. What else here? Do you do special order on specific plants? I've been looking for Heteroterrania zosterfolia, and I probably butchered that, aka Stargrass. Thank you. Yes, we can take special orders. I will say, though, that Stargrass is a very finicky plant. We can order it from certain suppliers that we order from sometimes. But in general, most plants, yeah, we can order, specifically. You just got to let us know, and then we'll usually, because it's a special order, we'll have to figure the logistics out on that. Sometimes we can't, because if it comes from one particular supplier, that supplier we may not deal with on a weekly basis. So we only may order plants from them like once or twice a year, just because they're specialty plants, and so you may have to wait till that. So. And Stargrass is kind of one of those finicky plants. But message me if anything, and I'll see what I can do. Maybe I can track them down. I used to have some, but it all died out because the tank that I was in just crashed for some reason. All the plants kind of just what the hell. So let's see. And we also do special order for bigger size plants. I have somebody that I'm working with right now. They wanted a jumbo size Amazon sword. Or mother sword, and that's what I'm getting them. It's like 24 or 36 inches tall, so it's pretty big. What's up, B Mowdy? What's going on? Hey Scott, do you do the Salvinia minima have roots that hang down similar to frogbit? They do, except they're not as long. They're very short roots. They're maybe about an inch long. Frogbit roots can get really long. If you're looking for something that gets really long, like super long, you'll want dwarf water lettuce. That the roots can get, I have some that almost reach the bottom of a 40-gallon tank from the top. So it, yeah, that could be the thing. Scott says, all Savinia plants are jerks that take over everything. That they do. They do take over everything. Dwarf water lettuce does also do the same. Most floating plants do that. Keep in mind, most floating plants, they grow on the surface of water. They have direct light to the sun. They have all the water they'll ever need and nutrients they'll ever need from the water. And they have no competition because not many things grow on the surface of water. So, they take over relatively unscathed unless there's something that eats it, really. Thank you. I have everything but CO2. Kind of nervous to make that leap. Any good basic starter CO2 kit recommendations? Well, look, if you don't have CO2 and you're just getting it to grow the dwarf sedge out, I would say you're probably better off just buying more dwarf sedge and planting it out than getting CO2, just because you're just getting it to grow out the dwarf sedge, and you could get the same effect just by picking up more of it. Say order, maybe another 20 bunches of it, or a couple more pots, and plant them around and just let them grow out over time and fill it in. Because once you introduce CO2, then you kind of really can't take it back. Like, you can, but you may run into issues. So it's tricky to do that. But as far as if you wanted to start CO2, good basic starter CO2 kits. A lot of people suggest DIY CO2 with like citric acid and what is it? Yeah, it's citric acid and I think vinegar, or is it something? I forget. Maybe it's baking soda. I don't remember. It's one of those. And then you have these 2 bottles and it mixes and all that. That's fine if you want to try it out, test it out. I always recommend though to go just buy a canister. You can find one used usually on Facebook or Craigslist for $20. You get one used because most places when you go and get a CO2 canister refilled, they just take yours and give you another one. So it doesn't make any sense to buy it brand new. On top of that, the equipment is the big upfront cost. You're gonna maybe spend about $150 for the regulator, the lines, all the the check valves, all that other stuff, the dissolver, and that's a big upfront cost. But you'll save money in the long run because the CO2 tanks last forever. So I ran all the tanks downstairs off one 20-pound tank for 6 months. So. Let's see, Alexander says, having a really bad time keeping hair algae from my anacris. Other plants are almost untouched. Any tips? Tried Excel in the past and it killed the anacris along with the algae. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's what Excel will do. The other option that you could try is hydrogen peroxide. What you do is you take a little turkey baster, or I like to use the little, what are they called? Pipettes. And you take a little hydrogen peroxide, turn off your filter, and you kind of spot treat where the hair algae is, and the hydrogen peroxide, leave it be for about 5-10 minutes, and then you turn your filter back on and it'll swish it away. But you got to do that every day, and the more you do it, the more the hydrogen peroxide is going to attack the algae and eventually kill it. But that's not to say that it won't grow back. It's just kind of that's one way to try and fight it. But the real cure is trying to figure out what's causing the algae in the first place. Once you narrow that down, whether it's maybe too much light, too much flow. Typically, hair algae is a lot of flow or a lack of flow, and or too much light. So those are possibilities. And then you could narrow it down and figure it out, and then still treat it with the hydrogen peroxide, and that'll hopefully solve your problems. I don't like sitting this way because I feel like I'm cramped and I want to extend my legs out, so it's just weird sitting in this direction. What's up, Bass? I picked up some red mangrove. Why can't I say this? Propagules from my local fish store at a great price, but one of them has the top 1.5 inches just completely black and shriveled. Should I just clip it? Wait for the roots to get long? That's a good question. I've never tried that. I don't know if once it shrivels it's dead. I kind of feel like it is, because basically if it has no leaves, and maybe I could be wrong because it's a barky stem, it's a hard stem. So hard stem plants like that typically can sprout and do leaves from just side shoots. So it's worth a shot. You're not going to lose anything. If it's dead, it's dead. But if you clip it and it sprouts, hey, then there you go. What's up, Aqua Noob? I just cut back a bunch of star gunning repens. I pulled out the old roots and replanted the tops. I hope I did it right by them. I pulled out the old roots and replanted the tops. Yeah, I mean that's how you supposedly that's how you can do it. You could also just leave the roots, like leave the stem that you cut there, and just replant the tops elsewhere, and that way it allows the roots to just branch out even more stems and get bushier. Stargarnic repens is one of those plants. It likes a lot of trimming, almost like weekly trimming will do that plant good. So, but you can keep the bottoms and the tops. You get just double the plants, unless you're out of space, and then you can replant the tops. That's fine. How easy is Jungle Val to grow? Pretty easy. It is one of the easier plants. In the goldfish tank that we did a while back, I literally just threw the Jungle Val in there, and it's been growing fine. It's not getting tall yet, but it is spreading out. I see new little tiny baby vals popping up everywhere. I do recommend, though, I like the Italian Val, which is a much narrower leaf, or the ruby red Jungle Val, which we sometimes have. It's a kind of a seasonal plant. And that gets red tips when it gets really big. Will that kill the Subwasser tang moths? Are you talking about hydrogen peroxide? So if you're talking about hydrogen peroxide, if you put the hydrogen peroxide on any plant matter, it may damage it. That's just a given. The trick is to try and get it directly on the algae or as little of the plant matter as possible. And also, like, if a leaf is really infested with algae, you're almost better off just cutting it off. Like, if it's completely covered and you can't just manually remove it, you're better off just cutting off the leaf if there's other leaves there. So that's the other way of doing that. But as far as moths, as long as you're not overdoing it, and that's the trick to the hydrogen peroxide that I was talking about. Like, you can't overdo it. A little bit goes a long way, and then just let your filter go. You don't want to put too much of it at any given time in your tank, just because it can over oxygenate the water, harm fish and stuff like that. If, like, I had one person I told, spot treat with a pipette or turkey baster, and they just dumped the whole bottle of hydrogen peroxide in their tank, wound up killing all their fish. I'm like, that's not what I told you to do. That's I don't understand how you got that from what I said, but hey, that's on them. I don't know. Plural says it has some pretty decent roots, so I will clip it and see how it turns out. I'll let you know how it turns out. Awesome, Plural. I've been set. John says I'll be setting up a 75-gallon soon and want to have it heavily planted. In your opinion, what is the best substrate to support this, and how will it affect my water parameters initially? So when you first introduce most substrates, there's usually ammonia spike, so your ammonia will go up, which is actually a good thing if you're not putting fish in right away, nor should you be, because you want it to kind of jump cycle your tank. So you put that in there, and it'll produce ammonia, and you continue putting fish food in, or you put plants in right away, and that'll help it's kind of speed up the nitrate and nitrate cycle. But as far as the best substrate, so that's really going to come down to budget. For a 75-gallon, you're talking about a lot of substrate to really make it matter. What I would tell you ideally is, depending on how your layout is, maybe you're going to have some areas that aren't planted, which may be better because, like, you kind of maybe isolate, maybe you just want the back corners planted. And so you separate them using, like, double wall polycarbonate and make, like, kind of like a little, like a moat, and put sand on one end where there's not going to be any plants, and then put the substrate in the back where there is going to be plants, and that way you just need a lot less of it, and that way it's more cost effective. Or you can do, a small layer of substrate on the bottom and then cap it with something if you really wanted to. But as far as, like, the best substrate, I mean, the best is aqua soil or contra soil. We sometimes sell it. Those are, like, the top of the line products. But for a 75-gallon, you're talking probably like $200 in substrate, because you're gonna need probably like 4 or 5 bags, and I think they're like $40 each, somewhere around there. So you're talking about a lot of money. What I would recommend, though, if I was personally going to do it and budget was a factor, I would probably do one, either separate it out and have a larger section of sand and only some areas are planted. But if you want to go full planted, so you were gonna have plants from wall to wall of the aquarium, I'll probably do like Seachem Fluorite, because it's reasonably priced. It's about $20 a bag. You're still going to need like 5 or 6 bags to fully give you like a good 2-3 inches deep of the substrate in that tank. So those are kind of my suggestions. Or, I mean, you could always do like regular mineralized topsoil. If you want to go that route, super cheap. But I always recommend go with something that's dedicated for aquariums. It's just going to be a lot easier to maintain in the long run. Jake says, hey man, I have some cherry shrimps that are dying. My plants look great and with growth. I figured my problem is I'm dosing Seachem Flourish Excel. Is that why they're dying? So I would say it's probably the Flourish Excel. I've experienced this with my shrimp in the past. I've dosed Excel and it actually wiped out some of the shrimp that I had. So I would stop dosing Excel and I would really take a light on Seachem Flourish until you notice that there's a noticeable change, or maybe just stop entirely until you see that like the shrimp aren't dying. But usually Flourish Excel is a little too much for them. Sometimes like in low dosages they can handle it, but sometimes just you may be dosing just a little too much. I mean, I personally don't like dosing Flourish Excel unless I'm targeting algae. Like if there's particular algae in the aquarium, then I use like the pipette or the turkey baster and I take it and I spot treat it. I don't just dump it in there, because when you dump it in there, you're dumping in just excess that you need, that you don't really need in there. Thanks for the advice. I was thinking about buying more might be a better solution, but didn't want to overload the tank. Expect an order from me this Friday. Thanks again. Thank you, Gary. Awesome. Yeah, well, we'll be restocking plants tomorrow, so Friday's a great day to order, or even tomorrow night, because a bunch of plants will be in. Do you think snails are important in an aquarium? Every aquarium I have snails in is algae-free, but without snails, I couldn't control it. I love snails. When I first started keeping aquariums, I hated snails. I was anti-snail. I thought they were like the weirdest thing. I'm like, no, don't want that in my tank. That's gross, that kind of thing. I'm like, oh, they're going to eat my plants. Then I did some more research. And I think that's everybody, like, unless you're like one of those people that are into like weird animals kind of, and like I see people keep snails as pets, but if you're not one of those people that are into like reptiles and stuff like that, you may get weirded out by the snails. I think that's a completely acceptable reaction, but the reality of it is snails are super beneficial to your aquarium, because they not only help clean the algae, and they may not, you may still have algae in your aquarium, they're not going to do it all, but without the snails, there's going to be even more algae. They're eating that, but not only that, they're also taking care of a decaying plant matter. As plants die back, leaves melt off, or stems rot, or anything like that, the snails go in and they chomp down on the dying plant matter and they poop it out, and that then gets broken down even further into food that the bacteria in your tank can use. And then also they also eat leftover fish food, so they help break that down even more as well. So basically the snails, they supercharge the nitrogen cycle, because they break it down smaller and smaller, so that way the bacteria can utilize it faster, and at the same time also allowing plants to utilize it faster, because the quicker it gets broken down, the more it gets absorbed into the substrate and the roots, and the better the plants are. So that's why snails are they're super beneficial. And I had to put a disclaimer on the website, like saying there is a possibility you may get snails, because we have snails in every tank. It's just inevitable. It happens, and there's just nothing you can do about it, nor is there anything that you should do about it, because they are extremely beneficial. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't see it that way. So, or a lot of new people, I say, don't see it that way. A lot of experienced and seasoned hobbyists do know that snails are a very good thing for your aquarium. Click like for the one guy that reads every single line in the live chat. Great guy here. Yeah, well, I'm able to do so because we don't have hundreds of people in here. One day, if we get to that, it may be hard to keep up, but I do try and go through and answer everybody's question. That's why I do these live streams. It's been like these live streams, and from a business standpoint, contribute probably very little to the business. But I enjoy helping people, because I get we get messages all the time, and it's like I love helping people out. But in this fashion, I could take an hour to power through a bunch of people's questions, and maybe one question may be what somebody else was going to ask, and that answer could be applied to both situations. So, but I appreciate it, Scott, and I appreciate the like. Thank you. I planted my Elodia densa in the substrate. After 2 weeks, it turned brown. What did I do wrong? So, densa does not like to be planted all that well. it really just wants to be floated, and eventually it'll put down roots. But when you bury the stem, that stem usually rots when it's planted. What you can do is if there's any green part or even the brown part, I would just uproot it. If there's brown and it's turning mushy, I would just cut it off right away and kind of isolate the green part and leave that floating. The green part will still sprout and continue to grow. So that may be a better option for you. Plural says, the only tank I don't have snails in my is in my panther crab. He feasts on them. Yeah, some fish and crustaceans actually eat the snails. Are the glasses just a fashion statement? No, I mean I put them on my head because that way I don't lose them or forget them, because I'm notorious for breaking glasses or losing them. So like if they're on my head, they're very hard for me to lose. But yeah, that's, they're already broken because Nova broke them on me. So, pest snails in tank. What's your opinion? Suggestion how to avoid or eliminate them? I say embrace them. Don't avoid them. Pest snails, quote unquote pest snails, they're really just bladder snails. They actually help. What I just went through with a rant of snails, they actually help to do all that stuff. So I say embrace them. If you really don't want them, the best way to deal with them is, one, buy tissue cultures. If you don't want to spend the money to get tissue cultures, then dip your plants in. Actually, on the website, there's a link to a great video by, I think her channel is called Gamer Girl, although she's a fish channel. Just go to the website. There's a link there. You'll clearly see it, and she does a great review on how to dip your plants if you're afraid of it. I mean, like, dipping is also a good idea to try and eliminate algae spores or algae that's on the plants or possible other pests. Like Hydra is always a possibility. Planaria is always a possibility. These are things that are so insignificant that it would be impossible for any plant shop to really like always be on top of, because there could be one little fragment of one of these things and it's, some maybe in the pot of the plant. So dipping the plants is always a good kind of way to eliminate that. But so yeah, I mean, I've seen, we've had Hydra breakouts before, and then we treat the tank, it's gone, and then maybe, a couple months later it shows up in another tank. We got to treat that tank. So it's kind of that you're always chasing it around, because I just don't want to continuously dose the tanks with stuff if I don't need to. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of money, waste of resources, and worse for the tank, I think. The less medications you have to put in your aquarium, the better. So I have Anubis for Xeria, Rotella indica, and just added Amazona compacta in my 20-gallon high Aqueon LED kit with blasting sand as substrate. How bad did I set myself up for failure? I would say you're okay. Those plants are relatively low light, so they should be fine. 20-gallon highs kind of suck because they're so tall. 20-gallon longs are a much better footprint, but I think you're fine. The one thing I would say is blasting sand is an inert substrate. You might want to get root tabs or some sort of liquid fertilizer, or both in the future, because blasting sand has no ability to hold on to nutrients for your plants to root into, so they're going to grow very, very slowly and probably be nutrient deficient over time. So let's see. Really? Then why would you think I'm not having good luck? It's a 5-gallon and I'm just running a sponge filter. That's what Jake said, but Jake's last thing was about the Seachem. Yeah, I think it's the Seachem. I'm going to be rescaping my tank and will be planting Monte Carlo. How many bubbles per second should I inject in CO2, and how many hours of CO2 and lights should I use? This is a UNS 60S 10-gallon shallow tank. So I always tell people start off with like 1 bubble a second or 1 bubble every 2 seconds, just so there's a slow trickle of CO2 and you're not going overboard. You can always add more, but it's hard to take away once it's CO2 enriched. The more CO2 that's in there, the more the plants are used to it, the more that they're going to react when you take it away, if you take it away. As far as hours, your CO2 should usually go on at the same time as your lights, or if you have 2 different sets of timers, put the CO2 on about a half hour or hour before your lights go on, and have it shut off at the same time or an hour before your lights go off. That would be ideal for it. Oop, got a bunch of bunch of things here. Holy crap. Chat's moving way too fast. Okay. Have you tried carbonated mineral water for aquarium plants? I have not. I don't think that's a sustainable way to do it if you're trying to like add CO2. I use test strips plural in my home, but I can't remember everything. It looks good, but my alk was slow. Alright. How many times a week should I add iron to my 5-gallon plant tank? My plants are getting starting to get holes in them. Well, if you're getting holes, that definitely means that you have an iron deficiency, but iron is a very slow absorbed mineral. I mean, a lot goes a long way. So I would only dose as per the instructions of the iron that you have. Or if you have like an all-in-one solution, much like the Vital formula that we sell on our website that has the iron in it, just follow the instructions to that. A 5-gallon tank is very small, so you don't need a whole lot. Like, definitely follow the instructions, because if you dose too much, that could affect your fish. If you have invertebrates, that could affect that too. And it could also hurt your plants having too much iron as well. Too much of anything is a bad thing, so just keep that in mind. Plural says iron gets used almost instantly, so you could not, well, it depends. Like, iron in the substrate gets absorbed very slowly. Liquid iron does get absorbed at a bit of a higher rate, but so I guess, well, in my mind, I would be thinking that he'd be using like clay tabs to add iron, but I guess maybe he has liquid iron too. So, because iron sticks around in clay and that kind of substrate for a very long time. CChem XL has gluhaderite, or I can't say that. I can't say that. I can't say it for some reason. This is for cleaning and disinfecting, such as hospital tools. It can be deadly for fishes and cause skin irritation if it gets on your skin. That is correct. CChem XL has this chemical, I just call it glue, that is used for disinfecting stuff, and it can be toxic in high dosages or very low dosages. Yeah, Gamer's Wife, that's it. Great channel, I enjoy your videos and learn a lot in the plants tank with red cherry shrimp. I unfortunately have scuds. Will they kill my plants and shrimp? No, the scuds, they're probably not going to be good in the long run. So what I would do is if you have fish in there, maybe remove the shrimp. The fish will actually eat the scuds and you'll be good to go. If not, you could always try and just take the shrimp out, put them in another tank, dose the tank with something that kills invertebrates, and then do massive water changes for a couple weeks, and then reintroduce the shrimp at a later date. Follow up on my question about best substrate. Should I avoid planting during the ammonia spike? Nope. Plant the tank as soon as you set it up, as soon as there's water in it. Best low maintenance plants for cherry shrimps. I love Water Sprite. It's a great plant for any shrimp tank because it has so many lacy leaves. It's great for them. I have tons of snails. No issues with them. Yeah, snails are great. Thanks, Nisi, for linking Gamer's Wife. Appreciate it. Plants will utilize the ammonia, so it may slow down the cycle. Yeah, but the plants are going to utilize it, but as plants adjust to the tank, and also plants have a biofilm growing on them, so that's going to help seed the cycle and the substrate and all that. So it's just best to add plants right away. It's just you're gonna just jumpstart the cycle. Do you have a good alternative for a plant called Limnifolia sessifloria? It's available in the UK, but mostly invasive here. Looking for something that grows fast and is hardy. Let's look up what this plant looks like. I forget what it looks like. Oh, no. Wrong button. Wrong button. Oh, it kind of looks almost like Kambaba. I wouldn't say, well, Kambaba's similar. Yeah, Kambaba would probably be an easy plant, but that's also invasive. you're looking for a plant like that with like feathery leaves. Rotella Walichi is another one that has feathery leaves, although that's not green, that's more of a pink or purple. There's a couple finer thin leaves of rotellas that maybe work. Hey, what do you suggest in the top up of your tank? Or wait, hold on. Oh, what do you suggest in top up of tank, RO or tap water? It depends. If your tank is tap water and that's what you're used to using, I would just use tap water. If your tank needs RO water, I would use RO water. The thing is, the less you mess around with the tank, the better. So just keep on the routine, whatever you do, and don't kind of deviate that unless you have a lot of problems. When you have a lot of problems, then you have to try and correct it and all that. I had a problem with trumpet snails and put in 2 pea buffers. They took care of the problem. But Helkio, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Trumpet snails are the best. Oh, Malaysian trumpet snails are probably the best snails for an aquarium because they burrow into the substrate. They drag down all the detritus for the plants to utilize, and they turn over the substrate, which helps oxygenate the substrate. It allows like air pockets to get broken up, and it's so good for aquariums. I would have trumpet snails in every aquarium, except they reproduce like crazy, and I know certain people don't want them. So I can't, I have 2 tanks with trumpet snails in them. My goldfish tank and my shell dweller tank, because I know that they're fine in there. They grow like crazy. I have tons of them in there. We could sell them as they repopulate. But if I put them in any one of the planted tanks, forget about it. They will be all over the place, and people will get them and probably be mad that they got them. So, but they are so good. Hygrophila pinifida, can I tie them to wood or rock? If not, which of them would you suggest? Yeah, you actually could. Pinifida is actually one of the only stem plants. I mean, there are a couple, but it's one of the only ones that you can actually tie down to rocks and driftwood that don't need to be planted in substrate. Let's see. Strange Case of Poison says, do you have any experience growing Hydrocodo triparta Japan? I can say that one. You see that? English worked for me. Yes, actually, it's a really good growing plant. Love it. It's actually like one of my favorite carpeting type plants just because it's super small. It looks like 4-leaf clovers, and it just carpets out. It is very, what's the word? Vigorous in its growth. It gets everywhere, so just know that. But it's a really cool plant. I like it. It's pronounced Helcio. Okay. Thank you for the answer. The shrimp and scuds, is there any fish that I can add to the tank with the red cherry shrimp? Currently have baby shrimp. So I wouldn't add any fish to the tank with cherry shrimp. They will most likely be eaten. Even with the smallest of fish, they will eat any offsprings of the shrimp just because they're really small and they will fit in most baby fish mouths. So I wouldn't recommend that. So I would try and, like I said, isolate the red cherry shrimps if possible, and then any fish will eat scuds. Like that's just a snack for them. That's it's a really good snack for them too. What's considered heavily planted in a 20 high? Pretty much wall-to-wall plants. That's what is heavily planted. Heavily planted to me is there is no site of substrate around. It's all just wall-to-wall plants. Plants are growing on every inch of everything, and that's heavily planted or moderately planted. There were millions of trumpets. So how to get a control? Yeah, I guess that's always the thing. You could also just restrict feeding. The less feeding you do, the less reproduction will happen. So that's one way that I always tell people that have snails to control them. If you have too many of them, just cut your feeding. I don't feed my fish every day. I feed them maybe 3 times a week. And they're fine with that. There's no reason to overfeed, and the less you feed, the better. And even with feeding 3 times a week, I still have millions of trumpet snails too. But it does, help reduce populations if you kind of go on a little fasting for a couple of days. Noah says, if we wanted snails when we buy them from you, could we just add them to their puffers? We also sell Malaysian trumpet snails because I have so many of them. So we sell them. With that said, though, if you're just looking to maybe get 1 or 2 of the pond snails When you order plants, odds are there may be one hitchhiker or possibly eggs, and you probably will get them eventually from a plant. So if you're just looking for the off chance that you get them, I would just say just order plants, and 9 times out of 10 you're gonna get some. And then you choose to do with them as you please. But if you definitely want some, I would say order them, and you'll get I think we sell them in batches of 10, 20, or 40. So, and they're either bladder snails or ram's horn snails that are like the pest ones. They're not I guess like the what would you call it? Like the signature ones, or like the I don't know what the word would be for it. Something. But yeah. Hey, when I placed my boost near CO2 diffuser, all the leaves melted away. Can you tell me how to help them improve to recover? Best thing is just leave them be. Boost is very finicky. It has seasonal periods. It sometimes drops its leaves out of nowhere, but will grow back as long as the stem is firm. And it's natural. Sometimes they're green, sometimes they're brown, but as long as the stems are healthy and firm, they'll be fine. The best thing you can do is just leave it be. That's with almost every plant. Like, people overthink it. Stop messing around with the plants. Leave them be, and they will eventually come back for you. People like to mess around with their tank too much, and they cause more issues than solve most of the time. Let's see. How do I get rid of algae I have growing on my potted plants? Well, it depends on the type of algae. Can you be a bit more specific? Is it black beard algae? Is it green hair algae? Is it green spot algae? That's like a dust. Dust everywhere. What are we talking about here? Blackbeard. Okay, so blackbeard is caused by a couple different things. It can be high organics in the water column, so that means maybe you have you're feeding too much. Maybe you have a lot of wood, and the wood is rotting, which is normal, so I wouldn't go overboard with that, but it's possible that you have too much organics. Somebody says, what are you drinking? It's just iced tea. Iced tea in my mixer jar. So other than high organics, it could be a drop in CO2 or too much CO2 if you're running CO2. Also, typically blackbeard algae likes to hang out where there's high flow, so whether that's on a filter output or by a filter output. So sometimes you have your filter output hit in the glass, and it'll grow on the glass in that point. It likes the flow. So how to get rid of it growing on your potted plants? So is it growing on the plant itself or the potted plant? Because you can do it either way. Like I mentioned earlier, if you take like a turkey baster or a pipette and suck up some hydrogen peroxide, and then you shut off your filter, you spot treat where the blackbeard algae is growing with that, either the hydrogen peroxide, or you could even use Flourish XL too if you wanted to, but I like hydrogen peroxide. It works better, I think. And you spot treat it, you leave your filter off for about 10-15 minutes, turn your filter back on, and swishes it all around. And that should kill what is there. It'll eventually turn white, pink then white, and usually your fish will pick at it, or snails will eat it, or whatever the case is. It'll eventually disappear, but that doesn't mean that it won't pop up elsewhere or pop up again. That just means you killed what's there. There's always going to be algae spores floating around in your aquarium, so yeah. How to cure your wood? It's been a month underwater, and I've boiled it for 5 hours. It still floats. Tie some rocks to it. That's what you can do. A lot of people, they'll you get maybe a slate tile from like your Home Depot or Lowe's. Yeah, either hot glue it or silicone it straight to that, and then you plant. You make it so that way that piece of slate sits on the bottom of your aquarium, and then you put substrate on it. I ran out of algae wafers, and while I was waiting for them to arrive, my crayfish absolutely mowed the Amazon and ocelot swords. Likelihood of recovery? Yeah, it'll probably be fine. Plural, the one thing that you could probably feed them, though, I believe you could do like zucchinis or cucumbers. I'm pretty sure they'll eat those and maybe leave your plants alone. Don't forget, most Like most vegetables, you could feed to your fish. Like if you have veggies in the fridge, chop them up, boil them. You like blanch them so that way they're soft, and you toss them in. I mean, you could zucchini. You could probably even do without cooking. I think I've just tossed it in there before. I haven't done it in a while, but I think you can. I have some weird growths coming off my driftwood. It's bluish purple and it's almost grows in stems. Can't figure out what it is. If I send you a picture, can you identify it? Yeah, I'll take a look at it. I'm not sure what that is. How to cure hole in the head for flower horns. Kimberly, unfortunately, I don't have that answer. I've never kept flower horns, nor have I ever really dealt with hole in the head disease. I think once one of my fish had it and he didn't make it. What I would do is I would go on the Facebook groups and maybe a flower horn Facebook group and specifically just post a picture of what you're experiencing and show that to them because there are a lot of people on Facebook and in these groups that are way more experienced than I am at flower horns, and that would probably be able to help you out better. So and I hope you the best. I hope he recovers because I hate when fish are sick. It just sucks. I don't blanch the zucchini. I also don't blanch the zucchini. Right? Don't soften the zucchini. Yeah, I don't think you need to. I think the zucchini is soft enough or that they like that. Tips for growth of Madagascar lace. Kind of just rest the bulb on the substrate. Don't plant it down. Let it grow. Eventually it'll retract its leaves through its natural seasonal process of kind of preserving its energy. It's ideal once that starts to happen. So basically you'll notice like 90% or all of the leaves will just start dying out of nowhere. When that happens, remove the bulb from the tank. Put it in like a bag of wet sand. Just damp sand, not like soaking wet, but damp. And throw it in a cool spot for like 3 months, and then after that you can take it out, throw it back in your tank, and it'll be good. What's up, Famous Jones? How's it going? A cucumber in my aquarium wouldn't that harm my aquarium or plants or fish? No, the fish and snails and all that will pick at it. I mean, most fish will pick at it. Depends on the type of fish, but cucumbers and that are great. I mean, carrots, peas. And peas, once you deshell them, it's ideal. Don't throw them in there with the shell on. They can't really digest that. Yeah. The cat. After 40 years breeding fish, I am surprised at how much I have learned from a young guy. But my money wort is phenomenal. Well, I'm glad that I've been able to help you out. 40 years. That's awesome. Man, that's passion right there to do something that long. That's crazy. What kind of fish you breed? But I'm glad it can help. I'm not, like I say, I'm knowledgeable enough to kind of know what I'm talking about, but there are certain things that I still don't know. And I'm just, I'm only a couple of years into this. I think 5-6 years now. So, but it's one of those when you find something that, well, at least for me, when I find something I'm really passionate about, I just dive in head first, and like there's no pulling me out of it. So, I've done tons of research, and it's funny though, because at school I was terrible. I was terrible in school. I was like a D student, and dropped out because I just hated it. It just was not for me. And then I find things that I'm interested in, and I do a ton of research, and that's it. But when it came to like learning about other things that I wasn't interested in, forget about it. I was like, I can't be bothered. Let's see. Can plant placement kill Anubis? I have a golden coin Anubis and my shrimp ate it. It looks Cedar and all lacy when they were done. Thinking of replacing a boost, but worried. Worried what? And placement couldn't. I mean, it depends. Maybe you put it a little too close to maybe the light and it got burned, and that caused the shrimp to eat it. Typically, shrimp won't eat live material unless they're starving, pretty much. So, guppies. Oh, okay, guppies. That's a good one. Guppies are cool. Like, I personally won't keep them just because they get out of control with all, obviously breeding. And I don't want to deal with that. But they're really cool. Like, some of them are really beautiful guppies too. Yeah, everybody's saying guppies breed like no others. Babies, babies, babies. Yep. haven't touched anything else. That's strange. I mean, Kimberly, if you want to shoot me a picture of the Anubis or whatever's left, maybe I can see what's going on. Maybe it's something else. I've got a beautiful strain of bright yellow, and my females are solid yellow too. Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, guppies are cool fish. I wish they didn't breed as much as they did. I just can't keep up with it. How do you get female guppies really big? Probably by fattening them up. I don't know. It's probably just the diet. Maybe feeding higher, fattier foods. There's different types of foods out there. Like no one fish food is created equally. So Noah says just feed them with lots of space. Yeah, that could work. Julie, if you were watching, thank you for your order. Appreciate it. I like to start shouting out people that order while we're live streaming because it's cool. It's cool. Did anybody else order? Julie, and I think this was before I started. Yeah, that was before I started streaming. It takes a couple years till they get full size, yeah. Any tips for getting dwarf hairgrass to spread out? I have S. repens and even Hellfury Downway spreading and growing well, but the hairgrass just grows tall. So odds are, if the hairgrass is growing tall, it's probably getting not enough light. When plants grow tall, that means that they're reaching for the light. They can't get enough of it. When they lay flat or spread out, that's when they're getting enough light to do so. So it may be lighting. With that said, though, is dwarf hairgrass does take a while to get going, and like even in the tank that I have over there, I had to plant a lot of it to get it going, like a ton. So it's ideal if you spread it out when you plant it, and hopefully it grows. All my tanks except for one are no filter, no CO2. The only fert I add is magnesium sulfate. Oh, it's interesting. The mini pond that I did a couple weeks ago, I've been running with no filter, and it's okay. It's going alright. I did one water change on it so far, but there's starting to be like a cyanobacteria outbreak, so I had to do the water change, and it came back. So we'll see. Live food. Yeah, live food is probably good too, like worms and stuff. Suboscar tank, what do you know about it? It's a really easy to grow liverwort. It's amazingly fast growing and impossible to get rid of. Usually, it just finds its way everywhere. I'll maybe try more, thinking about replacing it with Glasso. It's getting about 100 par, same amount as the other foreground plants growing in dirted tank. I'm kind of at a loss. It just kind of can take time with dwarf hairgrass. Like even mine grows super slow, and I have a really good light on it. I stopped using CO2, but it's still, it takes a while. The plant is a very slow growing plant, so don't worry about it. I mean, what I would do is I would just leave it be. If it grows, it grows. I mean, just look for new growth too. That's the key. All right, we got about 5 minutes left of the live stream, and then I'm gonna be signing off for the night. I was a little bit late, so that's why I'm staying. But actually, I did want to watch them presidential debates going on tonight and see who the qualified candidates may be, because politics are everywhere nowadays. It's been nonstop. You know what's funny? So I'm gonna share a little story before we sign off here. I'll answer this question, and then I'll tell a little story. Is there a limit to how tall of a tank you can grow dwarf lilies? No, I would say, I mean, I have some in 75 gallons of tanks, and they still grow pretty high. So, S. West. Love my plants and huge wood piece. Awesome, S. West. I'm glad you like it. So, funny story. Growing up, my dad would always be watching news. I remember coming home like every day after school, and on the weekends he'd be watching, MSNBC, CNN, whatever was on. He'd always be watching these new news networks. And this was back when we only had one TV in the house. Like, this was, you know, a while back before TVs became so cheap and all that. And so he'd always be watching the news, and I'd be like, why are you watching this? It's so stupid. Like, I wanted to watch cartoons. Keep in mind, I'm like 10, 12, 14. You know, I'm like, I want to watch my shows. Like, why do you want to watch the news? And I never understood it until now. I don't know what it is, but now I'm always watching the news. And I'm like, I've turned into my dad. And, you know, if he was still alive, he'd probably be laughing about it. Because now I'm watching news all the time just like he is. Like, you know, I have alerts on my phone to see what's going on. It's just funny how, like, that, you know, that worked out. But, yeah, so. I was telling Margaret the other night, I'm like, when we were watching the debates, and I'm like, you know, my dad would be, like, laughing at me right now. So, yeah. But, alright, not related to Fissure plants. If you don't vote, you can't complain about the current political climate of our country. If you vote uninformed, you can't complain either. Yes, it is good to be informed, and that's one thing. So, I never voted. I voted in our last elections, our 2016, and I voted again in 2018. And I was informed on who I was voting for, especially my candidates that I was voting for. I made sure I did the research on them. But I never voted before that. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't vote for, who was before him? Bush, right? Bush was before him? I think, yeah. So, like, I never voted for anybody. And, actually, could I have even voted for Bush? I don't think I could have voted for Bush. How am I? I'm, what, 30 now? Obama, I think I would have been, like, 19. I don't think I could have voted for Obama, but I didn't. But I didn't vote in that election. I didn't vote for, you know, until the Trump and Hillary, and then that was when I got out and voted. But it was one of those, like, I really did my research, and I kind of think I'm more of an independent than anything. So I made, you know, I can see both sides to each argument. So it's one of those that, you know, I like to know what's going on. But I definitely recommend, if you don't get out there and vote, and you don't get informed on who you're voting for, then that's, you know, it's just as good as not voting at all. Alright, let's see. Thank you for all the information you have provided. Good luck to you and all your viewers. Thank you so much. Always a great stream. Just I really appreciate it tonight. You're welcome. Have a great night. You're welcome. Yep. Everybody have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your week. It is summer after all. And I will be seeing you guys 2 Wednesdays from now. And I can't bring myself to vote for any candidate, right or left, that expands the scope and power of the machine and starts unjust wars. Yes, unfortunately, my take on it is you can't. There's no one person that is going to align with you 100%. But I try and find somebody that I align with the most. So there is always, you know, different talking points about everybody, and there may be some that I don't agree with certain people, and but there's other, you know, things that I may agree with them on. So it's just you got to pick who represents you the best and vote for them, I feel, because that's maybe what you want to see in the world, and especially with, you know, Nova, I'm now voting with her in mind in the future. That's, you know, that's my key point. Quick question, do you ship internationally? Unfortunately, I don't. I don't ship outside of the U.S., but if you look up other aquascaping companies around the world, I'm sure you can find one near you. But with that said, I'm going to peace out, guys. I'm going to go watch the debates because they are starting, and they're probably done with all the introduction crap that they ran on for 10 minutes last night about. So I will see you guys later, and yeah, I'll catch you next two Wednesdays from now.